Anakin Skywalker is widely regarded as one of the most powerful Jedi Knights in the history of the Order, and as a noble war hero throughout the Clone Wars, he brought with him a level of prestige and notoriety that was matched by very few. Though he would come to grow into a renowned idol within the Order, his childhood and upbringing within the Jedi Temple was far less merciful and far less than ideal. Though he had lived his life as a slave on Tatooine and had endured a number of traumas and tribulations at the hands of Watto and the environment in which he grew up, his life did not automatically get better upon arriving to the Jedi Temple. In fact, in some ways, it continued to take drastic hits on his mental and emotional state. So stick with us, weary travelers of the galaxy, and let's delve into some of the challenges that Anakin faced in his early life between arriving on Coruscant to the events of Attack of the Clones in Episode 2, and why living at the Jedi Temple was actually quite difficult for the young learner. Throughout the course of his training, there were a number of significant reasons why Anakin created a divide between himself and the rest of the Jedi younglings, and perhaps one of the strongest was due in large part to his dark past. Anakin was burdened with significantly more emotional baggage and severe trauma than the rest of his classmates were, which made it increasingly difficult for him to interact with them or form meaningful connections. Likewise, his peers elected to avoid him in return, sensing his disturbing and discomforting attitude about the world and view on the galaxy as a whole, as well as the entitlement that came from being dubbed the ever-elusive Chosen One, despite the only life he had ever known being wrought with pain and fear, as well as emotional and psychological torture. One of the other largest contributing factors was due to the drastic age disparity between him and the rest of his class, which resulted in Anakin immediately beginning to have trouble connecting with his peers, further worsening his already battered mental state. Having grown up with the connection with his mother, he would immediately have been an outcast, as the other Jedi initiates saw him largely as an entitled, self-absorbed child who also got to have a life that they did not, despite being enslaved. Jedi younglings were torn away from their families, and the memories of their loved ones quickly faded into obscurity, while the masters around them told them to harness their emotions, to behave humbly, and to embrace the honor of being a Jedi initiate, as the calling of the Jedi was considered one of the greatest privileges in the galaxy by many. This would most likely lead to an air of resentment, as the alleged Chosen One seemed to flaunt not only his title, but his life away from the Jedi Order that none of the initiates besides Anakin got to live. Though the bulk of his life was subject to enslavement, Anakin has admitted that among the pain, he did have good memories scattered throughout his childhood. He had genuine connections and friends, as well as his mother, and he would have likely recounted his advantages alongside Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, from winning his freedom in a pod race to destroying the blockade of Naboo, at the end of the Phantom Menace, of course. This is not to say that his life was easy or fun by any means, but it may very well be perceived that way by children who have an incredibly limited understanding of the inner workings of the galaxy outside of the Jedi Temple. These children were taken from infancy and reconditioned to assimilate into the Jedi Order, rapidly surrendering their memories and connections before they even had a chance to fully form them. Through these disparities, Anakin became thoroughly antisocial, avoiding interactions wherever possible, and typically branding himself as a loner, though he rose through the ranks of training remarkably fast when compared to the rest of the students. Anakin could pass some courses within mere months that would take other recruits an entire year to master, which further deepened the social divide between himself and the rest of the students of the Order. This led to a common practice of bullying and teasing for the young Chosen One, as the other children would mock Anakin for his slave past, as well as his unusually strong connection with the Force, which obviously stemmed from a place of jealousy, knowing that his points of sensitivity lie with his mother and the few bonds that he had on Tatooine, though this was not a one-way street. While the children were commonly at fault for bullying or teasing, the conflict was largely two-sided, with Anakin not only retaliating on multiple occasions, but inciting a number of conflicts with the students to whom he was the least cordial, and these feud carried on through the years. His social isolation would frequently pull Anakin into instigating conflict with the other students, as we learned that Anakin had unresolved pent-up aggression all the way back in Episode 1. We got a glimpse of Anakin's life on Tatooine, which frequently entailed him getting into physical altercations with other children in the village, a tendency which carried over to his life in the temple. Kids would often be armed with insults regarding both his past as a slave and his uncanny connection to the Force and ability to soar through the Jedi curriculum, which would exacerbate conflicts even further. This eventually drew the attention of the Jedi High Council, who were forced to step in on a number of occasions, and the most common mediator of these aggressive conflicts was none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was concurrently developing incredible skills in the fields of negotiation, diplomacy, and de-escalation. This also allowed Anakin and Obi-Wan to develop a deeper personal connection early on in their training regiment, even after their shared experiences on Naboo and the bond that they felt through the mutual mourning of Qui-Gon Jinn, which further strengthened their brotherly bond that would later develop into a master and apprentice relationship later down the line. Nonetheless, Anakin Skywalker's childhood at the Jedi Temple was less than ideal, as many of the students outright hated the young chosen one, and Anakin hated them in return. What's ironic about the relationships and both sides of the coin is that they both stemmed from places of jealousy for one another. The students were jealous of Anakin because of the fact that he got to live out segments of his life without being indoctrinated into the Jedi Order, and because of his incredible ability to touch the Force. And Anakin was jealous of the students because of the bonds that they formed with one another, and the connections that they shared with their masters. We have to remember that at this point in time, the young Skywalker had experienced so much loss, losing nearly everything, being stripped away from his home, his mother, all of his friends, and everything that he knew, to be placed in a strange situation where all of these other students had lived the entirety, or at least the majority, of their lives. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this detail of Anakin's early life after escaping from Tatooine? And did you know about these conflicts that he had with other younglings, and how do you think this influenced his growth into a fully fledged Jedi Knight? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next one.